of the National Arts Theatre. So for us, we are still in a celebrative mood.
Absolutely. And that's good reason for celebration.
Yes, indeed.
In fact, that's another talking point.
Yeah.
But let's look at, this concern about non-submission at the Oscars. It's happening time and again. What does this mean for an industry that is positioning as the third largest with an abundance of content that is celebrated across the globe?
Well, thank you so much for having me. And it's a topic that we need to talk about, really. And for us, it just means that we have to just go back and do more work. We're not the only country that will not submit a film or have no film to submit this year and the previous years. I know like countries like Egypt, like Morocco, they will get to a point where they will look at the entries that were submitted and they will say, the committee will just agree that none of this film should represent us, so to speak, because there are criteria for them. So a year that we don't have any submission, we shouldn't quarrel or brood over it. We should just go back and do some more work. And the more work that we need to do is that to enter a award scheme like the Oscars requires some level of deliberate. Let me just say, you have to be deliberate if you want to enter for this kind of competition, because there are so many criteria that are involved. You don't just say, okay, the committee just announces and says, okay, we are accepting entries now, and then you just take a film from your shelf and put there. A film that will appear in 2027 Oscar they will start making it now, and then they will start prospecting it at festivals and award ceremonies so that they can have invitations where there will be reviews of the film, because most of the guys who program content, who curate content for big festivals, especially the big 5 festivals, are on the Oscar selection committee. And so when you have a very good work that has premiered or that has screened at these festivals, the chances are that it is possible to get there. But here, the rule is that your film must be 51% non-English dialogue. So if you just speak maybe Pidgin or Yoruba, and then you expect them to now begin to get 1%, 2% of your local language, and the possibility is that they will enter it, and it will just be like 40%, and you're out.
So what questions should we be asking of the Stephanie Linus, by the way, our own Stephanie Linus committee, about the 6 films that were on the table? Because some people are asking, what happened to May Matarba, the Hausa epic film that stood out?
That was last year.
That was last year.
That was last year. May Matarba was last year, and it was selected. It was entered, but we didn't pass through the vetting stage, because there are stages at the Oscars. Okay. If you submit a film as a country, or as the selection committee submits a film to them, they vet the films to make sure, it's 51% language, non-English dialogue, it meets technical details, and all that. And it has been premiered in your country for at least a week before. There are those criteria. They will vet all that. Once they vet it, then they will now go to the next stage of shortlisting, and they shortlist 15. Usually there are about 89 countries that submit entries regularly to this in the best international film category, not in the major category. Then they will get about 15 of them, and then by December, they reduce the 15 to just 5. So my Mataba was last year. It didn't pass through the vetting stage. But this year, they said they have some submissions that were made to them, but those submissions did not meet the criteria. And I don't want to query them, because, the guys who constitute that committee are people of, they have their reputation at stake. So if you send a film and it is not accepted, or if it is just thrown out at that level, you know what it does to your reputation. So it's not for us to quarrel. We just come back. How old is the industry compared to France, Bulgaria, and they are sending entry, or Tunisia? Tunisia is a master of it. But you find out that some of these productions are not just productions that they just pick off the shelf and put and submit to the Oscar committee. They are from day one, when you start making the film, you tell yourself, this film, I'm aiming for the Oscars.
So are you by this admitting, and this is from the point of view of a regulator, that our own films are more of quantity than quality? Or are you saying this is just a desperate need for, foreign validation and we should rise above it?
Oh, no, I'm not saying that we are of quantity than quality. We have some quality works. We have works that can enter, but they don't meet the criteria. We have works. I know a lot of people have been calling a particular work.
That speaks to competence if we can't meet the criteria.
Oh, well, it's for the filmmakers that are making the film. They need to be, we are a commercially, oriented industry. We make commercial films. The films that go there are not commercial films. They are films that are like art films, They are films that touch on so many themes, and they are more technically, they must be technically sound to be able to get into those festivals. And then the criteria of it must be 51% non-English dialogue.
We have films like that have been celebrated, in the last, especially in the last 2 to 3 years in Nigeria.
But what was the technical quality? You are making them because you want to pass them on some of these streaming platforms. You want to pass them on, I don't want to mention, online. You want to sell them at this local cinema for local audience. And you are not, behind you are not thinking of, oh, this film has to go outside. And somebody has to look at them based on their own templates. You are shooting from the beginning. You are not sure of the subtitling. You are not sure of the music score and all that. You are not sure of the technical. In fact, we just need to sit back and be deliberate about entering some of this competition. We need an Oscar validation, whether you like it or not. The industry has come to that level where we should have. I mean, look at what my father Shadow did to us for Cannes. I mean, now every programmer is looking towards this way because they know that we have the talents to produce that kind of world-class film that Akinola Davis did, and all that. So, but for these Oscars, it's not just something you just stand up and throw in. I repeat, it has to be. You have to start and say, look, I'm making a film, and the film is titled Shaibu. And I want to put these films in festivals. I want to put this film in next year Oscar. Then you begin to go to the website of the selection committee, and you look at the criteria, what they require, and you begin to work towards it. Once you do that, you will find that the committee will not have any choice but to have your film selected. I mean, the committee selected C.J. Obasi's film, Wata. That film did very well, internationally. It opened at a major festival, I think Sundance, and then at FESPACO. And it did very well, although it did not pass through the nomination stage. It passed through the vetting stage, but it got to a stage where they reduced the numbers to 15, and we didn't make it. That was a pass mark for us as at that time. There's a film like Lionheart, although it
Language.
didn't. Yes, Language. And then he had they calculated and found that I didn't get up to 51% of that language. But Lionheart opened in Toronto International Film Festival. So, and if it had passed that stage, it would have the chances of even getting to nomination, because you opened at a major film festival and there were reviews about the film and all that. So everything is deliberate. You don't just pick a film off the shelf. And maybe what they should start doing is to sensitize our filmmakers, the committee, to sensitize our filmmakers on the need for them to they have to be intentional about it. It's not every year we just say, oh, we don't have any film. No. But the fact that we don't have anything to submit in Oscar does not mean that we don't have an industry. We have an industry. We have films that can stand anywhere.
All right. So you have said that we do need the Oscar validation to open us up into the international space.
We do.
Now, some would argue that, look, we can create our own table, and this continuous desperation for foreign validation, either it's in the arts or in the movies or in music, is needless. But what would an Oscar endorsement do for Nigeria's movie industry?
Foreign collaboration, foreign money. Distributors will run after the film. And it will not only open in Nigeria, but it will open internationally. And when you get money from theatrical distribution, you know what it does to you as a filmmaker, because it adds to what you want to use to make your next film. So it just puts us up there in the map that, oh, we have somewhat arrived. Not that we have not arrived as an industry. The industry has had some, breakthroughs here and there, but this particular one, I mean, look at the film that went to Cannes, My Father's Shadow, for instance. Distributors running over the film, and then everybody is saying, oh, Nigerian film by a Nigerian filmmaker, and so on. So that validation is very necessary for us. If a film like Metaba or Lionheart or Mami Water had made it, I mean, the filmmakers will be just swimming in glory somehow, because someone somewhere will pick them up and say, okay, if you are able to make this kind of project, then it means that you'll be able to do this kind of project, and then they'll fund it. And foreign money is good for the industry. We need to bring back, and then not just foreign money, because some of these projects will be shot in the country. And so you have transfer of knowledge, because when an international producer is funding a film, it comes with the best, and then we have local talents working together with the best in the world. And then by the time before you know it, we already have some international crew members working locally. So it has a lot to do. I don't want anybody to say, oh, we shouldn't bother about the Oscars, we shouldn't bother about the big 5 festivals and so on. We should bother. But I also like the fact that we need to also build our own systems here. And we have the African Movie Academy Awards, for instance, and we have the AfriV Globe Awards and all that. These things too count. I mean, if you go abroad and say you have won the AMA, for instance, somebody will look at you, because that award scheme is peopled by international programmers, international jurors, well-respected filmmakers.
And this sounds exciting.
Yeah.
You talked about foreign collaboration and the other prospects as well. But does this foreign collaboration now mean an embrace of our own big acts? And I could mention quite a few. I ask this question because, some international participators who are operating on their own will talk about how difficult it is to get a role in Hollywood. And those who are already there, if you talk about Oyelowo or Chiwetel Ejiofor, they are, citizens in their own right, and they do not need to cross too many hurdles, to get those big roles. So would that open up the space for our big talents, to also have names inscribed, on global lights?
Yes, it will. It will very much. I mean, I know that the Hollywood system is a very closed system, very closed. You struggle, you do your best as a foreigner, so to speak, to get an inroad into Hollywood. But if you have a big break in a film, even here locally, if you throw up a new talent in a film, you see that everybody starts running after that talent, and so that's how it will translate to when you appear in an Oscar-winning film and all that. And everybody will start looking for you. They are looking for the producer, they are looking for the director, they are looking for the lead actor, lead actress, who did the cinematography, and so on. Most of the cinematographers that come into the country to come and, work with our producers here are people who are internationally acclaimed. That's how you know them. You just add that to your CV. Oh, I was in this Oscar-winning film. So it will open the road, I want to see our stars cross over easily, cross there, not just make the money, but also put our name on the map. I want to see an RMD, Rita Dominic. I want to see a William Benson even, getting there and then giving us, and each time we see him on the screen, that's a Nigerian, that's a Nigerian. He does a lot, for us.
Now, as we coast home on the conversation, you have said that filmmakers need sensitization and a bit more intentionality. So in terms of those criteria, what should they begin to do differently? And does this, constant seeming rejection have anything to do with, the quality of films that are being done, hence the divestment of streaming platforms who are, leaving the country with all of those, funding that is critical to producing great films?
Well, I don't think those streaming platforms are leaving the country because of the quality of our films. They like those films, and they are still commissioning those films. I mean, I don't know who has made a good film, I mean, in the continent, like Chemis, To Kill a Monkey, for instance, and all that. And there are so many other films that have been made here that are of quality. But what we need to do really is to, in the mass that we make for our own audience, we must begin to think about making films for export. And there are so many benefits that come with being deliberate about making films for export. We talked about validation, we talked about bringing in collaboration. Because the only thing that can help this industry to go beyond the continent is international collaboration. Even the Akinola Davis film, My Father's Shadow, was a product of international collaboration, you know. So we need to begin to look towards getting, you know, some kind of support to help us technically. And that is why, for me, I am excited at the...
And I want you to break down technical, you know, because when you look at the behind the scenes of some of the films that are being produced, you see the sheer magnitude of investment that Nigerian directors are putting into, you know, equipment just to get amazing picture quality from those films. So I'd like you to break down technical.
Okay, we need to do more in the area of cinematography, for instance. We need to do more in the area of sound. We need to build capacity in those areas. And that is why, for me, I'm excited at the fund that has been provided, the Creative Economy Development Fund, which is designed to build infrastructure, build studios, and build training facilities and upgrade our training facilities, especially at the Nigerian Film Institute, so that we can upscale in the area of sound, in the area of cinematography, in the area of storytelling even, you know, in the area of screenplaying, for instance. So we need to upscale in those areas. And I'm excited because there are steps that have been taken to ensure that we upscale in those areas. We can do it here, we can do it with foreign collaborations, but what is important is that we must upscale in those areas. We are very good actors, we have fantastic actors, but we need to improve in the area of cinematography, we need to improve in the area of sound, and we need to also improve in other, you know, technical areas.
Yeah, quite an exciting one, a productive conversation by all means, and we're looking forward to the performance at the next opportunity for an Oscar submission. Mr. Shuaibu Oseni is the Executive Director, National Film and Video Censors Board. Thank you for coming on the program.
The pleasure is mine.